On restaurants in New York City, I am very aware of the economic pain that restaurants are dealing with. It's bad for the restaurant owner. It's bad for the staff, the sheriff, the waiters, the entire team that works there. We have experience in this area. We opened bars, and it turned out to be a nightmare. There were many violations, and there was very little ability to police the violations, to enforce the compliance. I talked about this every day for 2 months. I beseeched the local governments to help. They didn't. We then put together the state SLA, State Police Task Force, and we did local bar enforcement. As you saw earlier, we did about 5,000 visits in the past couple of days. That is the maximum capacity for the state task force. If you now increase indoor dining, you are going to have a compliance and enforcement function. If you go to indoor dining, you are roughly doubling the number of places that you're going to have to monitor. There would be about another 10,000 establishments in New York City that could do indoor dining. You know you had a bad experience with bars. You know that you're at your maximum in terms of enforcement capacity. You're now going to double the number of establishments that you need to monitor. How do you do that? That's the conundrum that we face. You also know that when we opened indoor dining in upstate New York, we had issues. When we opened indoor dining, we had clusters in upstate New York. This is not without risk, right? We're managing risk, but there is no zero risk. So we know indoor dining is problematic from our own experience in upstate New York. We know there's a risk of noncompliance because we went through it with bars. We know the local governments were very slow to provide additional enforcement. We know the state had to step in to do the enforcement, and we know that the state is at their maximum capacity for enforcement. That's the issue that we're dealing with. I would need additional enforcement capacity from local governments. And the additional enforcement is not that complicated a function, right? It could be a local police department, or it could be local health inspectors. This is not vis-a-vis the public. It's vis-a-vis the establishment owner. If you are in a restaurant, and let's say the indoor dining capacity is 25%. If you are in the restaurant and it is exceeding 25%, you're not out of compliance. The restaurant owner is out of compliance. So it can be a health inspector. We have on our task force now, on the state side, environmental inspectors, industry inspectors. It is any regulatory compliance officer who could be detailed to do this. If we have the enforcement mechanism in place, then we can talk about opening restaurants. It would be negligent and reckless to open indoor dining knowing that you have issues in upstate New York, knowing that compliance is going to be a problem, and knowing that you have no enforcement mechanism. And we're still working through that because I believe local governments could help us accomplish this goal